Welcome to the 2024 Phish Studies Conference Video Archive. The Mockingbird Foundation is thrilled and proud to present this groundbreaking video series on our YouTube channel. It continues our tradition of celebrating music education. Since 1996, we have been an all-volunteer nonprofit organization dedicated to broadening access to educational opportunities for youth in music and the musical arts. Please visit mbird.org to donate today.
Kung, rich in minerals. Kung, rich in Firth. Chained well in Martin land, fervent fourth, mere fervent fifth. Forever a row we curl. Be it so, forever voraciously alternate. We call upon your pulse. Can we stand? Can we stare? Everybody now. We can stage a runaway golf cart marathon. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up on your heels and call. From the hills, from the hills, from the hills. Thank you. And with those magic words, with those magic words, this room, this building, this campus, and well, wait, I thought it was like a mini earthquake I just felt a millisecond ago, but I think I know what's happening. Yeah, you guys feel that? I mean, I've been in this situation once or twice before, like Red Rocks 96, maybe, and then of course there was that time that my cat got hit by a comet. But this one was a little bit different. There it is again. You guys feel that, right? It might not seem obvious, but I'm pretty sure I know what's happening. There's a strange bird, a mockingbird that needs our help. After all, fame isn't everything. So if you were following the news recently, you know, run, OJ, run, yes. But you also know that there was recently a hot air balloon company that reported that its hot air balloon baskets were missing. And the going theory was that they were stolen for gift baskets for an academic conference. But that's not what's really going on here. What's really going on here? Well, it wasn't the baskets. It was the suspension lines, the straps as it were. Because the suspension lines can be used to turn anything into flying cargo. And sure enough, ladies and gentlemen, scholars, works of the Phish Studies Conference, lizard people of Gamehendge, we are being strapped. We're being strapped right now. We're suspended in lines, suspended in time itself. The famous Mockingbird is strapping us right now, and whoosh. Wow, that's amazing timing, by the way. You feel that, right? We are being lifted off the ground. Our problems are below us now, so are our fears. We're floating upwards. Higher and higher and higher and higher. You guys hear that? And anybody else hear that? It's the howling. I said it's the howling. I need you guys to howl with me now. Howl! Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Allen Ginsberg. We are howling with the winds, and before the moment ends, we will howl with the winds blowing differently than ever before. And now we're stabilizing. We're stabilizing. It's like I sometimes have to tell myself at set break. We're stabilizing, we are calm, and holy shit, I just realized that this is what space smells like. No, sorry, that's someone's vape or something. But now we're calm, so let's all gaze our eyes on that little speck off in that distance, way below us now. Anybody see what I'm saying? Anybody know the shape of that thing below us? Anybody? The rhombus, yes, of course that's the rhombus, and it can only mean one thing. We are geometrists. No, that's not what it means at all. We're changing shapes now. The rhombus unmovable, the net unbreakable. But we, my friends, we are growing lizard-like and perhaps a little bit French, and I know I'm confused about that part too. But bear with me, as it appears that we are now drifting. We've got the moon and the stars, and we are drifting downwards, our feet dangling just inches above the rhombus, and swoosh, the green grass never felt so good. You know where we are, right? We're in the jungle, baby. No, don't believe a word I say. We're in Gamehendge. Except we're not in it. We're still in international territory, the foul domain of prog rock, classic rock, art rock, and jam bands alike. So what's happening? The rhombus is behind us now, below us and behind us. And I don't mean metaphorically, because let's face it, the rhombus will never be figuratively below us, and we'll never put it behind us. So what is this then? Wait, I can see it clearing. And I can see it clearly now. The rhombus is gone. I can see it clearing that Trey never mentioned before. And yes, we are headed to it. Just over the Cascades, and down, 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 we glide, flip, flip, flip. It's a gathering around a symbolic bonfire. It's an unexpected intersection where Shakedown Street crosses a college campus. And it's beginning to look a lot like Gamehendge has a university. And at that university right now, school is in session. Yes, we are landing in the Phish Studies conference, which is exactly where I wanted to be this weekend, so that's amazing. So thank you, famous Mockingbird. I've loved you since before you were famous. Thank you, Iculus. I do like to read Iculus. And ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at the Phish Studies conference. Let me just say, holy shit, you guys. I never thought I'd say that from a college podium. Then again, I never thought that I would say anything that I'm about to from up here either. So it's true that we've got a band, and it's true that we've got skyscrapers scraping together, we've got saxophones playing bebop, that's for you, James Casey. And yeah, we've got simbop and satscrapers, yeah, we've even got the ba-ba-ba cymbals. But here's the part where they lied. Here's where they were wrong. It's not that simple. And that is probably why we're here. So let's stop for a moment and remember March 2020, the month that the whole world shut down. It was, of course, an unprecedented time in all of our lives, a strange time filled with uncertainty and fear. As we were locked down, we were separated, isolated, forced to stand still, our lives on pause, nothing but silence where all the daily noise used to be. From the moment we woke up until the moment we went to bed, there were video Zooms where meeting rooms used to be. It was weird. Not everybody loved it, I guess. About 3 weeks into it, Phish announced that they were going to immediately release a brand new album, Sigma Oasis. Now, non-Phish fans will never get the significance of that, because at the time of release, grocery store shelves were terrifyingly empty. Nobody was allowed to go into school or work or restaurants or just about anywhere deemed non-essential. We were bracing for this novel new virus that we knew nothing about, but we were certain that could or would kill some of our least favorite relatives, or much worse. And the truth is, people were dying. So, under those circumstances, your favorite band is releasing a new album? Cool. But can you turn back to CNN so that we can see exactly what the hell is going on outside? Well, that may have been my thought too, if it was literally any other band. But Phish, perhaps driven by Trey Anastasio's tireless need for connection, offered more than just new music. He and they offered a pandemic response that served as a lifeboat to our entire community. Everybody get on board, up the rigging, taking sail. I remember where I was when I first heard Sigma Oasis. And I bet all of you do too. We were all at home, of course. We were stuck inside the same place that we had been for 3 weeks. But suddenly, for those 66 minutes, we were all together, no matter how far apart. Just like all of those dinner and movies, which became the highlight of the week for me, and my guess is for most of you in this room as well. It brought us all together, despite all that stood between, including politics, economics, and geography. If you add in an additional 6 feet for proper social distance, the result left us miles apart from each other. And yet, when Phish streamed Sigma Oasis or any of those Dinner No movies, I could feel all of you right there with me. Instead of chompers, it was a steady stream of text messages. It's okay, I put my phone on silent. There's no need for tarps or territorial pissings. I danced in my living room, you danced in yours. We even ate the same meal, but from different kitchens. We relived the same jams, some of which we experienced together during their initial creation in venues across America, which means, as some of you here might be able to help me prove, we were actually a part of that music's creation. Not to mention that they were some of the best nights of our lives. Set 2, Type 2 segments of transcendence that are now also forever bundled with all the pre- and post-show circus acts affiliated with them. The tales that we lived so many years ago, from shakedown wagers to hotel ragers. Look, any music can be a soundtrack for our lives. But Phish's music, significantly, their improvised compositions, which is to say instrumental sections, have also formed our narrative. The Phish scene in the 1990s felt like a secret handshake society where we were all in on this incredible underground network. Before anyone had a MySpace login, before social networks came online, we were trading tapes by mail, we were trading information by news groups, and we were trading smiles and sorting through set lists in parking lots across America. And that made us a community. But when Phish broke up, that community broke apart. It moved on. When Phish got back together, we were all at much different points in our lives. And as we all one by one came back to the band, things looked different. We looked different. The community was less centralized, less defined. We were once one big family, and then during the breakup, we all got other families. After Phish reunited, we had events like Magna Ball, Riviera Maya, and the Baker's Dozen to bring us all together as Phish fans. But it took a pandemic to bring us all back together as a community again. Not that we weren't before, but it became amplified. And now, we're not just a scene, we're a movement, we're a philosophy, we're a lifestyle brand, we're a mountain in the mist. And from that mountain, in the garden below it that we planted so many years ago, Phish 4.0 bloomed. Now, I'm certain that pretty much all of us in this room remembers that first tour back. It was another undefeated season where every set was a grand slam and every jam a slam dunk. And look over there, moment factories. Okay, so that's a brief history of our shared experience. But now let's talk about the present, the state of our union in 2024. Well, I'd say we're off to a pretty good start, right? So Phish rang in the year casually enough with a full-scale theatrical presentation of Gamehendge. Now, in some ways, Gamehendge is our origin myth, with Iculus being the god in our neighborhood of make-believe, and the Helping Friendly book our sacred scripture, our handbook for better living, except that it doesn't actually exist. And unlike many religions, we are aware of its fabrication, even while shredded bits of it fell from the ceiling at MSG. Nobody here believes that there's an actual Helping Friendly book, nor is there a king among us hoarding all of the knowledge inherent in the universe. And if that's what you're really after, well then spend some time with ChatGPT. And see if that brings anybody, human or lizard, peace and harmony. Gamehendge was there at the beginning of almost all of our Phish journeys, and that makes it important to us. But we've come a long way. Harpua, we're not in Vermont anymore. Quote, "If there's one thing I discovered after coming back from hiatus," Anastasia once observed, "it's that you can't go backwards," says the guy that wrote Forward People. So as significant and as outright triumphant as New Year's Eve felt to all of us, and it was victorious, it was also weirdly the least fishy gag that they had done in some time. Because if there's one thing that Phish doesn't do, it's look back. At least not often, and never without reason. So granted, it was their 40th anniversary party, So they got the hall pass, and we got an unforgettable celebration out of it, a celebration of the foundation that got us here. And indeed, New Year's Eve was a lot of things, including things meaningful and many things significant. It was a gift from the band to our entire community. But a retelling of Gamehendge wasn't the cliff jump that gives us those moments of spiritual breakthrough as we fall through the air, blissfully unaware of where or even how we're going to land. It was a tradition, a celebration of territory already won. So I want us to consider for a moment the battle between tradition versus innovation. Tradition versus innovation. These two camps are usually sworn enemies. The rift between conservative and liberal, the calculable and the unknown, a type 1 and a type 2. Ending the creative war between those two states to create a more perfect union is one of Phish's superhero talents. We live in a land of tradition and innovation. Now, Phish established traditions from their very start, adopting certain performance hallmarks, such as the trampolines and other gags, gimmicks, and novelties that were intended in some ways to differentiate themselves from the arena rock cliches and conventions that they appeared to be mocking, all the while unwittingly establishing their own. Like, say, having a drummer that wears a dress and takes vacuum solos and showboats around the stage like wrestling legend Bob Weaver, who actually is a wrestling legend, by the way. Now, Phish very thoughtfully, very mindfully, created a series of creative and innovative novelties that through repetition became tradition to the point where we can't imagine a You Enjoy Myself without a synchronized trampoline routine. Now let's look at Phish's Halloween tradition, where they famously covered an album in its entirety. When they first broke that tradition to swing the night back to the realm of innovation, there was a lot of disappointment. Also, now that I briefly have a soapbox, let me just say how dare any of you be disappointed that our favorite band decided to take that extra set to share with us a brand new album from our favorite band instead of some old, marginally seminal album that many of us had never heard from some other band that wasn't even in most of our top 3. I didn't understand that disappointment then, and I don't understand it now. Furthermore, by bucking tradition, taking a left turn, and hitting us with something that not one person in that room would have guessed, Phish embraced and displayed some of their finest characteristics. Expect the unexpected with a fearlessness of the unknown. It's another lesson in cliff jumping. And after you jump, you might want to put your wingsuit on, and you never look back. Now, Phish's most universally fan-appraised move that they had done in years was to retell Gamehendge, a 40-year-old story that, as Trey conceded on stage, they've been telling for their entire career. That's the reason it had been 30 years prior to that since they did it last in its entirety. Backwards looking instead of forward. Tradition versus innovation. Innovation could have been if they had done Gamehendge the sequel, or if they created the backstory to the evil King Wilson, revealing him to be a good guy that only turned bad because of a series of circumstances and traumas. Or if they debuted a brand new rock opera with entirely new songs. But if they had done that on New Year's Eve, it would have gone over about as well as Wingsuit. A whole set of new songs on New Year's, how dare they, right? No, I mean, I would have loved it. But I love Gamehendge too, as evidenced by my involuntarily jumping up and down as the rhombus was being erected on stage. It was a peak moment for all of us. But let's not overlook that Phish did bring innovation to the retelling of that tale too. It was the first ever Gamehendge with a full-scale production, a cast, an aerialist, a dance troupe, and a mockingbird that actually flew. Shiny bells, attention-grabbing whistles. It had an entirely different feel, form, and function as any Gamehendge that had come before, not to mention a scrambled set list, which is something they've always done when retelling Gamehendge in its entirety. That's pretty unique for any rock opera, and that's as fishy as it gets. So perhaps tradition is just innovation that's aged well. Innovations become traditions, and traditions play a key role and fill an important cognitive function in our myth building, in our philosophy, in our identity as we interact with the world around us. But innovation is what keeps that world turning. And it doesn't always have to be innovation with a capital I. Revisit December 29th from this past year, New Year's run, 2 days before Gamehendge. On paper, that might not look like all that remarkable of a show. But listen to the jams in the second set, and you will hear a remarkably fresh approach. Traditional tunes, innovative jams. As we are so fond of saying, no two shows are ever the same. And that's tradition too. That's a tradition that requires innovation. Now I'm gone and I'll never look back again. I'm gone and I'll never look back at all. If there's one thing I discovered after coming back from hiatus, it's that you can't go backwards. Well, my first thought upon leaving Madison Square Garden on New Year's Eve was naturally, where do we go from here? It was the first day of the new year, which is the day that, traditionally, we're supposed to look up at the Milky Way and see endless possibility for the new year. That applies to Phish years too. The last day of their 40th anniversary year landed us in Gamehendge. Wilson is gone. Wolf is the new boss, same as the old boss. What now? Well, Phish is at a point in their career where most bands would be thrilled just to reap what they've sowed, endlessly harvesting nostalgia for appreciative crowds and a pretty respectable paycheck. Time after time, show after show, tour after tour, from legacy arena tours with inflated ticket prices, no real sense of connection, to the fairground stage at your local county fair where you can hear the radio hit while riding the zipper. Yeah, well, not our band. If that was the case, we wouldn't be here today. Neither would they. Phish's first shows after Gamehendge felt in advance like they were going to be telling, like they were going to set the intent for this year to follow. So what they do, they hightailed it down to Mexico, where they not only played innovative new jams, but they even found new places to jam within songs that they've been playing since the 1990s. The most obvious example of that is naturally the 40-minute Bedazzled Chop This Torture. Now, that's a song that they had played 508 times before that, yet never anything like that version. And to my point, it wasn't just that they jammed it, it was also where they jammed it. They blew past the traditional jam opening. They went back into the song as if they weren't going to take it too far out there, and then they blew it open at the ending for the next half hour. They did something similar with other songs from the night before and the night before that. It was a pattern for those 4 days south of the border where they went over the moon. And then Phish took over the most watched new venue in the world, Sphere. And suddenly, our little band that could became the biggest band that did. It was enough to make first-timers require a blender afterwards just to make sense of it. But what really happened there? What was that all about? Well, the popular understanding is that each night represented a different stage of matter: solid, liquid, gas, plasma. And that certainly appears to be true. But I believe that if we want to, we can take it deeper and we can look at it through a slightly more complex filter, one that would feel a little bit more fishy, while still accounting for the 4 stages of the matter as the standing themes, with multiple sub-themes, but also 4 meta-themes, or in literary terms, 4 super-themes. We were in the sphere, so perhaps whether they knew it or not, Phish took us on a journey through 4 different spheres, whether they knew it or not. Night 1, solids, also the geosphere, dirt, sand. Welcome, this is a farmhouse. The biosphere works here as well, complementing the geosphere with the solid earth giving rise to living things such as leaves and antelopes. Night 2, the obvious one, liquids, also the hydrosphere. Water, oceans, waves, bathtubs. The show opened with a song about being on a ship and pushing someone overboard, free. And from that moment on, we were splashing in the sea. From being among the seaweed and the slime to being afloat upon the waves. The set list that night formed the fluid narrative of transformation, where we can shapeshift as easily as liquids. Night 3, gas, the atmosphere, right? If you insert yourself into the story, And I believe that we're supposed to. Well, then after instructing us with set your soul free, during tube, we transformed from the liquid state of the night before into soap bubbles that took us up into the air, the atmosphere. And in the second set, we ascended there another way through fire and a half-hour fuego. Now, tellingly, the night ended with a song about saying goodbye to a dying friend, Life Beyond a Dream, followed by Tweezer Reprise, which happened a night earlier than most of us expected, as if to draw our attention to the bookmark. The cars came crashing down. The cycle of life had ended. The next night would have to be a new beginning, if we could only find a way to evolve. Night 4, plasma, but also, in sphere terms, the noosphere, spelled N-O-O like noob. Framed as either a sphere or a state of matter, both the noosphere and plasma can be metaphors for the spirit realm and for spiritual transformations. We're just changing shapes. Where plasma literally gives us light, starlight, sunlight, a metaphorical interpretation of the noosphere would have us return to light after death, returning us to the plasma that first formed us. The noosphere is a theoretical sphere of thought, beyond the four forms of matter, beyond the measurable. It's the sphere where all consciousness merges into one, where we evolve from our solid forms and identities into a piece of universal consciousness, spirit. Note that the fourth night, note that the first set opened with plasma, evolve, ghost. That's the story. Stars are made of plasma, and we are all made of stars. It's all one big circle or donut or sphere. Everything is overlapping. Now, the song list that fourth night significantly indicated that exact transformation. Plasma evolved ghost, then divided sky as we went upwards beyond the atmosphere, beyond gas, into plasma, into the noosphere, the land of eternal spirit. Set two started out with us dying. Oblivion, down with disease, a 35-minute down with disease that almost actually killed us. And then immediately after that, the songs informed us that we were leaving the world of matter behind altogether, to go into that space beyond the atmosphere, where matter transforms into spirit, and souls are, in one way or another, returned to sender. Plasma, you always end up where you start. Beneath a sea of stars, dancing in a dream and we're free of time. Ether edge, as the moon begins to rise and through the air she flies, beyond the ether edge to the other side. That's not just plasma, that's spirit. Meta-theme, theme, and sub-themes, all rolled into one, all tied with the visuals, with the lyrics, and it created this narrative arc of the 4 nights that is something a little more profound than just land, ocean, air, sky. It was about our journey through them. And then, for a thought to send us home on, there must be something more than this. So let's not forget that Phish very intentionally released a single a week before the sphere, Evolve. That's an age if I ever smelled one. And sure enough, the message of the spheres, as we move from one to another, is that we evolve. We evolve. The same is true of the 4 states of matter. We transform, we evolve, and then as plasma, we go into the noosphere by the way of that portal that we all marveled at during first tube, that took us into another dimension. Or perhaps it just returned us to the earth from where we came 4 nights earlier after a 4-day adventure. Now, was this sphere factor a building block during the genesis, or is this just a filter that can be applied during post-analysis? Well, if we want to slice it open with Occam's razor, we'd cut right to the heart of the matter and its 4 states. The sphere layers might be fan layers. The plasma sub-theme, which is the soul, spirit, noosphere stuff, though, well, that has Trey written all over it. But to be honest, the truth here is a bug. It doesn't matter. Phish Adventures are immersive works of art, which means that it can be all things, or rather anything, to any one of us, and it's all valid. The sphere's thematic arc could be matter, while its narrative arc is spherical, and its measure of success is merely, hey, did it move you? Did you enjoy itself? Whether or not the sphere was about matter doesn't matter. What matters is that we are still discussing it, still pondering concepts, far bigger and more philosophical than what dance music is used to presenting. And it's all valid, so much so that it warrants an academic conference just to examine it. One last thought on the sphere for now. I've heard some interesting theories about the car theme during Tweezer, and you enjoy myself. Logical analysis that may or may not be tied to the original intention. My own humorous take on it is that for Phish's first night getting to use this brand new technological toy, they called up their most reliable jam vehicle, Tweezer, to take it for a test drive. Well, the sphere still had that, new car smell. And then the next night, they used their signature tune, You Enjoy Myself, to take it to the car wash. Now, the car wash was funny, but perhaps my favorite thing about it was that it wasn't exactly unfamiliar. I mean, show of hands, how many of us have intentionally listened to a psychedelic Phish jam while going through a car wash? Oh, and perhaps then the ghost robot was Phish's commentary on planetary evolution as we barrel towards a world of AI, evolve, or perhaps it was just someone at the Moment Factory just thought, hey, that would be cool looking, and they were. So I hope that we discuss this stuff over the next few days and beyond. For one of the many joys of Phish is that they give us things to talk about, concepts to ponder, concepts we might never see. You can passively enjoy Gamehendge, or you can get involved in the game. You can go to a Phish show, you can dance and go home happy, or you can do that and then go online and debate somebody else who just got back from the same show as to whether or not that second set was number-lined, or if it doesn't matter because the 42 minutes that preceded the song was a mind-expanding, life-enhancing, improvisational masterpiece. We're talking about art. You have permission to draw your own conclusions about it. But all of this to say, after this New Year's Eve was a look back 40 years, going back to Gamehendge, the band immediately answered it with a look into the now, Mexico, and then the sphere. They became the band that stepped into tomorrow. Tradition and innovation. One thing is clear, we aren't even halfway through this year, and Phish's creativity is on as high a level as it's ever been, which of course is remarkable for a band 41 years into it. That's virtually unheard of, and as far as I can tell, unmatched. Now, Phish's art, in particular, encourages an elevated level of engagement, to the point of driving us into computer labs in the 1990s to discuss, to discover, to debate, and to participate. And now that we have the entire Phish sphere in our pockets, on our smartphones, we remain constantly engaged through social media, text chains, message boards, and memes. It's fun. It's engrossing. It might be the reason some people have labeled us a cult. But let me be clear. We are not here to worship. No. Trey, Mike, Paige, Phish, they might be exceptional musicians and creative geniuses, but I assure you, they are infinitely human, flawed like the rest of us, the mortal man behind the curtain, controlling the much larger mechanical wizard. But when they're together, when Phish plays, something special happens. And that's why we're here. Not because of them, but because of it. It's an it that compels us to travel hundreds of miles, hundreds of times for our pilgrimages, and for that experience, to tap into it, to ride it like a wave. So naturally, inquiring minds like ours want to know what it is. For some, it's enough to experience it. Others want to solve the mystery at the heart of this thing. I'm not sure that I do, because mysteries can be magic, and magic lets us remain filled with a wonder in a world saturated with disappointment. But what I want is validation. Validation that I didn't spend hundreds of nights of my life chasing after an illusion. Validation that what we experience at Phish is real, that it's meaningful, that it's significant. We've given so much to this experience, we deserve validation. And to me, that validation is just seeing all of you here today. Here we are at a conference in a remote part of the Pacific Northwest, 2,807 miles from where Trey Anastasio is actually playing tonight. And we're here to discuss, analyze, question, inform, and otherwise engage. Phish is not a spectator sport. When we are in the same room as Phish, while they are performing, we influence the music. We influence the jams. We are a crucial part of its creation. We're participants, not bystanders. It comes with epiphanies, revelations, forgiveness, acceptance, pivots. We're talking about, major life changes. And if you've experienced this at shows, you are not alone. You're in good company. I'm right there with you. How is it that a rock band can create something so powerful that, and show of hands, how many of you have felt like you had a spiritual breakthrough at Phish? That's remarkable. That's validation. Your experience at Phish is valid. It's legitimate. There is something real to it. It's not the same as seeing Taylor Swift after all. It's not the same as seeing Radiohead or Metallica or Bruce Springsteen or any other of these incredible live acts. Unless, in your experience, Phish shows are just good quality entertainment. That's valid too. After all, it's art. It's music. It's only rock and roll. But I like it. And if that's all you want out of it, that's perfectly fine. But you're probably not here in this room then. Because Phish puts a lot more on the table if you feel like picking it up and taking it home with you. They leave us with puzzle pieces that we each have in our pocket. And maybe if we take all of ours out and look at them together, we'll get to see the bigger picture here. So I'm relying on you to help me be able to explain the how and why questions. Over the next few days and nights, I'm counting on you to show me, to teach me, to question with me, to explore with me. And by we, I mean all of us together. Listen, we're not here to celebrate our community or even our band. We can do that too. In fact, yeah, we should do that. Let's do that. So let's dance tonight. Let's trade tour stories tomorrow. Let's make new friends and save tarp space for each other this summer. Actually, I'm kidding. Get out of my dance space. But just far enough out of it so that we can still smile at each other knowingly when the band busts into "No Gods Allowed" at Mondegreen as we roll like a cantaloupe out of control. But that's not the main reason we're here. We are here not only to celebrate, but also to make sense of, to calibrate, to legitimize, to acknowledge, to get a little closer to the mystery that lets this band become the very gear shift that puts our souls into the high gear, driving us into the heart of the divine. It's the same divinity that anyone else on the planet experiences in their own ways. But this is our way. This is our band. And sorry guys, it's not that simple. So all of this is just to say, welcome to the Phish Studies Conference. Thank you all so much for being here, and we will be back in exactly 15 minutes.
Is this on? That was phenomenal, thank you. We have time for 2 questions. If anyone has a question for Benjy, I can walk around with the mic. I can't follow that, so. If not, we can just all have lunch and you can attack him on your own. You got one? Yeah, sure.
Benjy, what can you tell us about your first show?
So my first show, I was convinced that I had heard a picture of Nectar, and the way that I heard Phish described to me was like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but a hippie version. And so I went, once certain things kicked in, I intentionally lost my friends and ended up in the 5th or 6th row. This was when seats were still on the floor. And it was New Year's Eve '93, which meant that there was an aquarium on stage, and the band at one point came out in wetsuits. And I was convinced, first of all, that happened at every show. And then I was convinced at set break, because we all know how weird set breaks are, I was convinced that everybody was talking underwater, and that Phish had made this effect. That so when anyone asked me things like "excuse me" or like, you know, whatever they asked me, I would look at them and play along, going blah, 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 blah. And then I became aware that every one of their songs relates to water or being underwater, and they played "Split Open and Melt," and I was sold. And then afterwards, my life was changed. I mean, I'm sure that we've all had that experience over here. The friends I came with, I remember meeting up with them in the parking lot afterwards to, you know, go home. And I think we went out for food or something. I couldn't eat, but I remember we went out for food. And I remember my one friend said, that was good, but you know, I can't wait till Rush comes here in 2 weeks. And I thought, man, I don't know if I can be friends with you anymore. You know, because I found my people, you know, and my band. And the other thing I will say about it quickly, and it's interesting with the arc of my life, and I'm very, you know, I work professionally with members of the Grateful Dead and that whole world. And up until my first Phish show, I would have said the Grateful Dead were my favorite band. I wouldn't have said I was a Deadhead. I said they were my favorite band. The reason being is I didn't feel like, I felt like it was a different time and place. And I felt like, you know, like, they weren't a museum piece. Now they might be. They weren't a museum piece, but they were my favorite band. But then when I saw Phish, I was like, I'm a Phish head, you know, instantly. This is where I belong.
Benjy, thanks so much. I was wondering what role you think you listed all these things that we're going to do. We're gonna talk. We're gonna educate, and I wonder where critique fits in. Like, really get in there. Into your view?
Well, I think critique is an important part of the Phish experience. You know, in Undermine, I remember that we, my memory is vague of this, but I remember we talked to somebody that was talking about how Phish criticism is a really important thing. And no, my friends, you know, on my text chain with my friends, you know, that little friend group that I'm sure we all have, they call me a fluffer because I like so much, but I'm not a fluffer. I'm quick to put down things I don't like from the band. I don't have an issue with that, but I happen to love a lot of things, and I have I see a silver lining in a lot of things, and I like new songs and all that stuff. You know, I think I don't want to hear Gaiudi every 4 shows for the rest of my life. You know, and so I think. But with critique, I think it's valid because, as I was saying in the speech, it's art. And it's okay to critique the band while still being a fan, and in some ways, it's a duty. You know, like we have to, you know, I mean, we see so many shows, would be lying to ourselves if we said that they all were the same and they all were great. And if they are, then I wouldn't want to keep going back. You know, like we want them to jump off cliffs, and when they fall, we fall right there with them. And so, like, I know tonight the Phish Haters Ball, it bombs away, and I have you know, experienced Phish hate you know, with friends, and especially even in the Grateful Dead world, and that's a different thing than critique. And critique to me is a sign of love. It's saying, you know, yes, that was they really tried and they just failed tonight, you know, or that jam went nowhere. But I would rather that jam went nowhere than they played Gaiudi again for the, you know, and I love Gaiudi, so I don't know why I'm using that as an example. Other than I could say that with any song, you know, like I want them to always do something new. Innovation versus tradition.
Thank you to Benjy for kicking us off today.